you know me, I'm Michelle Hester-Reyes, the Academic Senate President, outgoing. And thank you for coming today. It's wonderful to see everybody here. It's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker and our consultant, Dr. Bob Pacheco. You have his bio. It was in the video that was sent to you, but I just wanted to highlight some things. First of all, he is from the San Diego area, Maricosta College. He had quite the drive yesterday, by the way, but he made it here. He has lived in Visalia for a year, 25 years ago, on San Joaquin, which is near Walnut. Yes, and so he's quite familiar with the area. Dr. Pacheco right now is the Dean of Research, Planning, and Grants at Maricosta College, a college that was put on probation for almost the same things that we are on show cause for. Last night, Joni, Jennifer, and I had dinner with him, and he told us a remarkable, hopeful story about how they worked together to transform their college, and they were reaffirmed after 14 months. We know that we have a lot of work to do, and we know what we need to do. But what he's going to talk about today is how the planning pieces that we're building right now are going to connect to our outcomes and assessments. We thought we were doing this. We thought really that program review was doing this, but what we found out from Ava Conrad and from others is that we are not doing this at all. And that was a problem also at Maricosta. So they had to start from the beginning, and he will be telling you all about that. I'd just like to ask you to move forward if you can't see the screen. We have plenty of room. If you're happy where you're at, that's great. We hope you are sitting with people that are from your division or department, or your friends, whatever. We will be stopping and starting a lot. Dr. Pacheco will be talking for 20 minutes and then having you work in group for about 20 minutes. We do have 2 parking lots over on the side. Those are for any fleeting ideas that you have that may or may not be connected to what you're doing at your table. So if you have an idea and you think, oh, I don't want to lose that idea, go put it up on the parking lot. The pens are on the floor underneath, and we will address whatever you put in the parking lot at the end. Joni and I are going to be bouncing around the tables, trying to figure out if you have questions or concerns that we can get back to Dr. Pacheco. So without further ado, please help me welcome Dr. Bob Pacheco.
Well, thank you. Yes, you know, I tried to find the place that I lived 25 years ago, and I drove by the street 3 times because the trees have grown. It is enormous. Visalia has grown so much since I was here 25 years ago. Just amazing. But the trees on San Joaquin are huge now, and I didn't live there. So I really appreciate you guys having me come down here, and I'm going to bounce back a little bit. And to tell you a little bit about me, I was a faculty member for 14 years. And while a faculty member, I worked with Marcy Ellen Craig and Janet Foltz on the SLO and Accreditation statewide academic senate committee. Went back and got my doctoral degree. And I do have some outcomes assessment experience. I moderate the 2 California community college listservs. One is Learning Outcomes, where it's a place where people can go and chatter about things and questions they have. Hey, does anybody have a good set of SLOs for a sociology deviant behavior class? Or does somebody have a place for people to chatter? The other one is a learning assessment, where it's more like a blog. We give you information about what's rolling. But I think one of the strongest things that I can give to you guys, that I can bring to the table, is I was at Maricosta University, bring the 4-year degree to 2 years. But I was at Maricosta College, and we were remarkably like you. And we got on probation let me tell you, when you open the letter, probation, so-called, looks the same. And we went through, if you remember, Kubler-Ross's stages of trauma. We were angry. What do you mean this is MiraCosta? I mean, we're good at what we do. What do you mean we're on probation? And so what happened to us was a lot of the emotions that you're experiencing today, we experienced. But part of the process when we went through Kubler-Ross's cycle was the realization that a lot of what was written in the evaluation report and the recommendations were true. We didn't do program review. They were very similar to yours. I was looking at your program reviews the other day. 60 pages. Got a hernia trying to carry it to my desk with all of this information, and it gets buried somewhere and nobody looks at it. The other part that we did outcomes assessment, and I noticed in the program review, same stuff we did at MiraCosta, which was outcomes assessment portion of program review, outcome met, what are we going to change? Nothing. Outcome met, what are we going to change? Nothing. And it was the same kinds of things we went through, is that we had no buy-in to the process. Outcomes assessment, we felt, was another way of having some sort of manner to evaluate faculty. It really wasn't what we thought it was going to be. But over the period of time that we were going through this process, we changed. And I can tell you honestly, and I would invite my academic senate president, Mark Yeager, who I work with very closely, we've had the same conclusion, is we're not sure we would be the college we are today were it not for that sanction. That's a fact. We didn't plan. Where decisions were made and priorities were set, we don't really know. And now we are, and I'm going to try to demonstrate for you today what we're doing, and realize that this is a moment of opportunity for you. An opportunity to change the way you do things and to build meaning into the process. I prepared a little video that I hope you guys had a chance to watch. I know it was delivered late. If you get a chance over the weekend, provide you some foundational stuff on outcomes assessment. But I want to remind you of a couple of things that are happening, and then get right into what we're doing at MiraCosta, and then how the outcomes assessment stuff fits in. And I really do mean what I say is a moment of opportunity. We are a much better college now because we've instituted the processes. We did program review every 6 years, but our strategic plan was every 3. Well, how are you going to get information from program review to know whether you're making right priorities to meet your plan if you're doing it every 6 years? We were so disconnected. We were just doing it because it had to be done. And now what I'm going to show you is how the outcomes assessment stuff you're doing at the course and program level feed the program review, set priorities for the college, and make the institution a better place to be. How many of you have had a chance to take a look at the video? Did anybody get a chance to look at it? About half of you? Okay. Yeah. You know, what's influencing all of the changes happening in accreditation is that movement that I talked about in the video. In the 20th century, schools and colleges were built just like the factories that were really effective in the United States. The one way of the United States becoming productive in the factory setting was exactly that. Find one way to produce Model A's. You work with labor to get it done. You systematize the process, and you produce it, and that's how you become more effective. How do you evaluate it? Where do you deviate from the factory line? Where those deviations took place, you corrected them, and you continue. The problem is that that's not the way organizations are going to be effective in the 21st century. What's happening in the new world is that factory model is proving to be really unproductive. And the model that's being created is a model what's called a learning organization. Think, for example, of Blockbuster Video. When Blockbuster Video first came out, the idea of being able to go to a place and rent all those movies, I remember walking through Blockbuster Video and saying, thought I died and going to heaven. I could go in here, get a video, and take it home. How many of you even have a VHS recorder anymore? We have a couple holdouts. But the reality was, if Blockbuster didn't anticipate the internet, didn't anticipate the conversion of tape to digital information, now you get your tapes from Netflix, you download them, and they're there for a period of time. Things are changing that quickly. If you had told me when I was here 25 years ago in Visalia that I'd have an African-American president, female Supreme Court justices, female secretaries of state, I would have thought you were from outer space. I never would have thought it. That's the environment that the students you're preparing the world for. The world that they're going to be seeing 25 years from now. And faculty lead that. Curriculum leads that. But the old way of doing things, the old way of keeping the status quo is making us ineffective. We're not, back in the day, COS was that local community college that served the area geographically, Tulare County, sent kids to Cal State Bakersfield, Fresno State, and also had a CTE role. Now you can take classes at COS and be in Africa. Not only that, students in Tulare County can take courses here at Miracosta. And who gets that apportionment when they enroll? We do. So the world is dramatically changing. The world that they need to be prepared for, the world that we need to prepare them for, and the environment that we ourselves occupy in. And that influence, that move, that learning organization is what stimulated the continuous quality improvement models. The models that were started at Toyota, FedEx, have now come here to the college. FedEx is so good at what they do now, it's like a verb. Hey, will you FedEx this for me? Because their model is continuous quality improvement, right? They measure their use. And so that kind of thinking is happening here at college as well. So I want to set that stage. That's what's laying the foundation for the comparison. You saw in the video that I talked about what's happening in the European countries, making sure that the Bologna Accord, that CTE, student learning outcomes in Spain, are the same as the CTE learning outcomes in Germany. Why? Because you're seeing the United States of Europe be created. That's really what you're seeing. That person can get their degree in Spain, there's a job in Germany, and I can go there. I don't have to worry about my units. Why? Europe is trying to make themselves more competitive internationally. So we're now in an environment where we ourselves are competing with students from around the world. So given that in mind, and that's really driving it, kind of sets the stage for the change. We're going to get you guys working in just a little bit. But there's that old factory model. I mean, students were taught the same way. I went to Catholic school my whole life. Ring the bell, Sister Margaret came out, line up, do this, 3rd grade, 4th grade, quiet, eat, go. It looked just like a factory. And the reality is you go in some of the elementary schools of today and these learning environments that didn't exist when I was around. So that whole kind of concept of doing it the one existing way doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work. I had a chance, and you're going to find me that I talk very fast. Raise your hand and ask questions on any things that you have. I'm also going to be very blunt as I talk about my own institution and what I see that needs to happen here by October. When October team comes out, you've got to wow them. End of sentence. You've got to come in, administration, faculty together, building a college for the future. Period. It has to have that approach. You've got to be able to come to them, and you need to be able to show them, I think, 6 essential processes that are in place. In faculty, you play a critical role, a real critical role. Because my analysis is that the outcomes assessment, a lot of the stuff, I think many of you view it as busy work, irrelevant work. Let me get this done so that I can get back to what I really know what to do. Because the information is going somewhere into program review, and where's the decisions? Well, I did this work, where's anybody even reading this? And that really has to change. And that was the way things were at Miracosta. We did the work, got it together, nobody read them. So there are a couple of things I want to lay out, like learning outcomes, where I want you guys to be by the end of our time together. First thing that we need to build together, that you guys need to have in place by October, is an assessment loop cycle that's annual. You're working with an individual who's going to be setting things up for you with respect to your planning. And Eva's going to be setting up a model that sets up a larger plan that's happening 10 years, an operational plan that's happening every 3 years, sort of a tactical plan, and an annual system that provides data and evidence that feeds that information. So the key thing that we need to be able to establish right off the bat by October is that you have an annual cycle. What happens in September, what happens in October, what happens in November, so that that whole cycle of information that's coming and feeding into the program review happens. The second thing I think that you guys need to be able to show is that assessment loop, that process of setting outcomes for your course, measuring them, determining the strengths and weaknesses, identifying the gaps, and then starting new strategies happens. It happens at the course level, it happens at the program level, and it happens at the institutional level. From my limited view of looking at it, I see course level outcomes is certainly happening, but you need to find a way to be able to gather all of this information and put it in a place that can populate your program review. Where I see there's some issues is I see that course level is being done, but where's that mapping to the larger role? I see anthropology outcomes, but where does anthropology map to that student, that social sciences degree? Or where does it map to what we want that student to be able to do in the GE transfer or their IGETC certificate? So we're going to be talking about how to be able to get that mapping together. Where do our courses, what we're doing in our courses, not just instruct them for the course, but also instruct them for the program? How does that course in post-war American history, those questions also make my student a better thinker so they can anticipate what's going to be happening 50 years from now. Those kinds of mapping of your outcomes. The one thing that I think has struggled most with COS is the decision making. I follow the outcomes, I see them placed, I see them put, but where do they go? Where's the results and information go that's helping inform better decisions at the college? So we're going to show you, I'm going to walk you through MiraCosta, and then we're going to put you guys to work for most of the time. I'll probably talk the first 10 to 12 minutes. I'm going to put you to work, come back and have your reporting out. Put you to work, come back and have you guys report out. The last thing I think needs to happen here at this institution, and I said our because I'm here as a peer. I'm fully employed at MiraCosta. One of the things that I do here is coming and work with you is that I've been in your shoes. And I can tell you that it can be done, but it takes a change of thinking, a paradigm shift on the way things that are going to take place. You need to be able to show this commission probably over the next 2 to 3 cycle of years of these changes. And your attitude has to be, when they come out in October, welcome, let me show you what we're doing now. And then when they come back a year later to be able to see the changes, we welcome you. We want you to come back, look at the kinds of decisions we're making now, the better institution that we are. The other thought that I had in my video, and I want you to keep in mind especially, and I have my degree in educational psychology, so I really want to measure things. But we're really looking at the impact we have on students. This model here that's on the screen behind you is the GATES initiative model. It's all the RP group that I'm a part of is doing a number of the GATES completion agenda in a number of the states in Ohio. But it generally looks at students from the 4 stages they have in school, which is the first is the connectivity. That's largely student services, getting that student to come to this institution, to know that it's here, to outreach to the high schools and get them here. The next stage, entry, and that's the beginning parts of matriculation. That's looking at the curriculum that you have, the degrees that you have, and getting them enrolled, getting them assessed, getting them into the process. Third stage is that progress. How do they get to that completion? That final stage, really, of getting that degree, the certificate, the transfer, the things that they want to do. And what looks like a really simple path from that first-time student to completion, while it looks linear, it's much more complicated. Because from that path, from that time, that opportunity that that student first comes in, all of these positive and negative things are happening to them. They lose a job, parent loses a job, they get pregnant, something happens at home, positive conversation with the financial aid officer, negative conversation with their officer, coming into a class and having it not be at the right schedule. All of those tipping points are happening. And what we need to do as faculty is to sit back and be thinking not so much about causation, but what effect am I having? How am I reducing that hurdle for that student to be able to get to the completion outcome that they want to have? What do I do in the classroom that makes it more effective for them? What do I do in those conversations during office hours, or the conversations I have in the hallway with those students to encourage them to keep them rolling? So that conversation is more about the effect that we're having on the students, because there's some things that we simply can't control. Things that are happening in their lives, so their unpreparedness and bad experience before coming to college, we really don't have a lot of impact on. But how do we maximize what we do have an impact on in the classroom and outside? And that focus that you have in your outcomes assessment isn't about establishing cause and effect. You know, the data, we're going to look at data later, the data that you're collecting only takes us so far. It takes us to a point that we can collect the information. After that, we rely on you as experts to be able to know what to do. It's diving into the data, it's looking at the information, what students are struggling with, and then you as faculty members or team of faculty members in your discipline come together and say, what are we going to do given the limited information that we have? And some of the things that we do in community college make us feel good, but are they really having an impact, an effect? And so part of the thing is you're going to be hiring you're going to be hiring a dean of research planning and development here at this institution. And I really want you guys over the next year to build a partnership with that person, of collecting that information and evidence that informs your program review so that you can make these changes. So view your researcher as a partner, as somebody who can help you get that information that you want to be able to learn. What is the impact of this prerequisite we have on chemistry? What is the connection of the math SLOs in this college algebra class we expect for people to take when they go to chemistry? Are you even teaching the things that we're expecting the kids to know? Those kinds of conversations so that you can have what? Back to that picture I just showed you, which is increasing the possibility of that student to complete, right? Okay, we're starting to bring it to outcomes assessment. So the role of outcomes assessment, that measuring of student learning, if you saw the video, there's 5 reasons why you do outcomes assessment. 5 of them. The first one is become a better teacher. Study the learning process and find things that are happening. How do I present this information in college algebra in a different and better way for the generation that's in front of me? How do I look at the data to become a master craft? You know, it's really funny. I was guilty of it too when I was a faculty member. If you go to sports, or if you go to acting, and you listen to their interviews, they're always getting better, right? You listen to Dwayne Wade. I went to Marquette University, and Dwayne Wade went to Marquette University, and he's one of the all-stars. And he sits back and he says, I'm not getting my jumper the right way. So he gets up before breakfast every day and doesn't eat breakfast until he hits 400 three-pointers. Not shoots 400 three-pointers, hits 400 three-pointers. He wants to know that with the ball, and I'm sitting here saying, why do you need to do that? You're a multi-millionaire, you're an all-star, you're on a national team, because in his psyche is, I can be better. Same way with acting, right? An actor always takes a role. But we do that. We're perfectionists as faculty, right? We've got to be best. We've got to be able to do ourselves. But how do we build in that idea that we're becoming masters of our craft? I know I was a better faculty member 14 years after teaching than I was when I got started. So how do we build in that idea in a non-evaluative way that I'm a good teacher, but there's things that I need to be able to work in. I'm going to be working on my free throws. I'm going to be working on my rebounds. I'm going to be working on the curveball. Setting those kinds of targets. That's the #1 reason for outcomes assessment in a non-evaluative way. The second part of the second outcome, or second reason you do it, SLOs, is curriculum. Is the curriculum designed right? Is the curriculum aligned or being implemented correctly? What's happening, I'm seeing in your program reviews, is that there's not that opportunity to have a reflection on the data to see about your course taking patterns, right? It tends to be more justifying the department. So I'm going to talk about what we're doing at Mira Costa now to make it better. Third reason that you do it, resources. Time, money, people, humans to be able to close gaps. And I'm going to show you an example today of what the biology department now does, how we make better decisions now at Mira Costa based on outcomes assessment. We don't use outcomes assessment as a stick. We use outcomes assessment as a flashlight. This faculty member, through their research in the classroom, has found a gap. Not reflective of whether that person is a good faculty member or not, they found a gap. And then we use the administrators as empowerers who can help get the resources to that faculty to close the gap. And let that expert come back and report back to us, what are you seeing happening? Oh, you know, we tried this intervention, it didn't work, but now we're going to try something else. The fourth reason that you do it is that learning organization. The key thing that you're trying to build here is that the COS 20 years from now is built upon the COS that you're building now. So that track record, that history you're sharing with faculty over the years is going to be passed. So that person now who's finishing their master's degree and will be here 10 years from now is building on the wealth of information you've built here. And the last reason why you do outcomes assessment is quality, academic quality, which is accreditation. So keeping those 5 things in mind, I'm becoming a master at my craft, I'm assessing my curriculum, I'm determining whether or not I can get resources to close gaps, I'm part of a larger group, we're trying to build a learning organization here, and I'm also doing it to demonstrate to the accreditors that we're assessing ourselves. The 5 reasons why you do it. The key thing that happens is your outcomes assessment has to come in and feed your program review, because program review should be the driver of decisions here, period. So what's being fed into your program review? You have efficiency data, right? What are my fill rates? What are my this and that? And then you're measuring demand. You're determining whether or not the course size is correct, and determining whether you need to add sections, close sections. All of that stuff comes involved in program review. You also have outcomes data. Students are taking this course, are struggling with the next course up the list. We're finding that's the case. What do we need to do to change in our reflection? And the last part is you need to be looking at success data, achievement data, success rates, retention rates, right? Success in a subsequent course. All of that information should go into your program review. The program review then is mapped and helps you meet the strategic plan, which meets your master plan. And what's happening at Mira Costa? We didn't do any of this. The outcomes assessment was put and tracked at and left alone. The program review was done, nobody really read it, and the decisions were done the way that they had been traditionally done. And the commission caught us on it. You guys can't show us that a decision was made based on the faculty research. No, we couldn't. I'd be lying to you. We do now, though. And let me tell you that, as I said, we are at a place now that we jokingly say we didn't have the will to be here. But we are now. We are a much better college. We are a much better decision making. The faculty and administration work so much better. Why? We're buying into this learning organization. We were the old factory, right? Faculty were labor, management was here, we'd be sitting there arguing about roles and money and whatever. And it was about our relationship, it wasn't about student learning. So what we're doing now is more about student learning, how to get better. Let me show you how we do it. At Mira Costa College, and it should be here, we're going to be asking you guys a little bit for some exercises. It starts with the mission. Why are we here? And prior to our accreditation, our mission analysis was largely this one paragraph that got written up there that nobody could remember what the heck we wrote anyway. Right? Then we sat back and we said, well, wait a minute, we do have a CTE purpose. We have a transfer purpose. We send students to San Diego State, UCSD. We do also have a lifelong learning. We have a lot of retirees in northern San Diego County. We play an important role there. Basic skills, student success. We had these roles, right? But it still was ethereal, you know what I mean? We're here, and we love everybody, and everything goes great, and we want everybody to be happy. Mission statements tend to look like that. But then when we started to then write goals. Okay, well, let's start making this a little more concrete. What should it be doing 10 years from now? If this is our mission, 10 years from now, if we're able to see things happening, we'll know that we're meeting our mission. What's critical then is that we then, each and every one of our institutional goals has objectives. Those objectives are in our strategic plan. Now we're getting more and more granular. So we start off with a goal that says something like we're going to be able to increase the research and planning presence, to hiring a meeting, to writing a job description, to getting the person flown, do you know what I mean? To bringing that person in, and coming up with mission statements. So we start with the mission, come to our goals, and get to the objectives. That will be the model that's likely going to be unveiled here at the institution. Your faculty voice, your faculty input, the faculty experience that you guys have in setting these goals, be a voice. When these objectives start to be crafted, be a voice, contribute. Because you know what's happening at our institution, we have these objectives that nobody really knew. We kind of sort of learned about them from an email. Here's our strategic plan. No, you've got to get involved. You've got to be able, with the new governance structure that's being set up, you need to be able to have these objectives in your back pocket. So we go from mission to goal to institutional objectives. Those institutional objectives are really meaty kinds of things that we say what we're going to do. We are going to increase the rate. Talking about missions, for example, we started to really think about it. We're right next to the largest marine base on the planet. Maybe veterans should be a really critical consideration we play at MiraCosta. May not be here. Do you understand? Or we have issues related to lifelong learning with the retirees that rely on our courses as part of their well-being. That's the part that's being crafted here at COS. What is the role you play in the economy, in the well-being, in the arts of Tulare County? And articulate those. Write them down and participate. So we're at objectives. We write the objectives down. We come on in and we start then setting larger outcomes for them. So we set these outcomes, we line them up, and we say, here's are the things that are going to be happening. I'm going to post all of this up on the wiki so that it'll be clear with examples of all that we're doing. Today we're just trying to get the idea of what roles. So here's an example. We start off with our institutional goal that you're going to have effective planning and research. We didn't have effective planning and research, so we made it a goal. Look at the objectives that we wrote. Centralize the institutional planning in an office. Our research office was largely somebody running reports. So we had a larger goal. We're going to increase the institutional research presence and planning. Second, we're going to make an office. And the next part is we're going to make a data warehouse that people can access. You see what we're doing when we're lining up these goals? Two ways that we measure progress. We're coming to outcomes. Trust me, we are coming to outcomes. The first way that we measure progress is action plans. And so our strategic plan has specific things that we're going to do. Hire a researcher, develop a job description, right? Come up with a goal of the department, do all of those things. We line them up, we say what we're going to do. And every year, we assign somebody that responsibility, we determine whether it's money that is needed, and then we measure progress on it. So that institutional objective is measured through specific tasks. We say that we're going to be doing other stuff, but we're definitely doing these things. So we put them in an action plan. The second way that we chart progress is through program review. Is where the outcomes assessment starts to come on in. We have created a simple 3-page process, and I think the handout for you is there in front of you from biology if you want to take a look at it in more detail. Our program review is co-chair, faculty co-chair, and then you have an administrative co-chair. It's a really simple 3-step process. Review the data, reflect on the data, and establish a plan. So what happens is the data is all collected. In your current program review, it's enormous how much information you guys have in there. Your program review is trying to do way too much. That information that you're collecting needs to happen and get into a very simple format. What we do at MiraCosta is we have very, very thick packets of data, gets summarized in 3 pages, and I'm going to be sending you in detail blank templates for you. The faculty come together and they review the data and they make collections and then stick them. Hard to read here, I know that isn't what the purpose is. It's just to show you the kinds of things that happen. Again, the actual information for direct reading will be in front of you. That faculty come together and sit and talk. They take the data and they make conclusions. So very simple information that's laid out in each of the cells. That's really what I want you to take away now, not necessarily the detail. And what you're having this biology department start to do in their program review is analyze the good, the bad, and the ugly of the data. Our lab facilities are not completed. Insufficient money. We're not being able to get the classes. Our lab classes are too crowded. We're seeing success rates in these lab classes are not what we would like them to be. We're guessing the reason why. We then look at the other kinds of data in a very honest reflection of where things are happening and where they're not. What happens as a result of that? They build a plan. And what is this biology department determined to do? They think that part-time instructional assistants in the labs are going to increase success rates. Why? It gives them more attention. The faculty member can be more freed up. You see that they're using the data and information that they have to recognize a gap and get an improvement. Let me tell you, we never really did this before. That kind of honesty to be able to sit back and say, here's what our data is telling us, here are the gaps, here's the plan. What happens next? A year posted before it, nothing. Those plans are now then prioritized based on 2 things. They're placed on, are you repurposing funds or are you asking for new money? And by the way, the biology report should be at everybody's desk. I can see people leafing through them. If it's repurposing existing resources, that stays within the division. So if you're taking your budget and deciding we're not going to go in this direction, we're going to go in another direction with the budget that we have, those priorities, those plans that have come together and been prioritized, stay with the division. If you're asking for new money, new resources, new funds, then it goes to the Budget and Planning Committee. That Budget and Planning Committee comes back and makes a determination. Now, you then sit back and say, well, what are you doing in Maricosta to be able to evaluate these plans? We've developed a rubric. This is not for reviewing right now. I'm just trying to get you the idea. We come up with a rubric. And what does the rubric do? It scores that based on, number 1, how mapped are you to the mission? Number 2, how mapped are you to the institutional goal? How mapped are you to your program level outcomes? You'll see an area there that says thoroughness and completeness of the analysis of your outcomes assessment. You get points. The quality of your data gets you points, so it gets tabulated across and added up. That's how your plan gets evaluated. This is what we're doing now. All of the plans that have been submitted get scored by teams. Teams of classified, teams of faculty, teams of administration. All 3 come together and we score them. Score them on that rubric. We look at the program reviews, and we make a determination, and we come up with a particular score. Are we good at it yet? No. No, we're not. Oh, you can see where we're scoring them. Sometimes people score them 68 and 70. They're pretty close. But some of the plans are coming in, and people are scoring them 85, and some are scoring them 49. In the past, that would have been a problem for us. We don't. We need to sit back and say, what's going on? Why are people scoring these things in different ways? It's a way for us to get better. But what we do now is we take the average of those scores, we evaluate, we train, we make the rubric better. Those plans become transparent, they're posted on our website. These following 17 plans that came from program review, that were formed by outcomes assessment, were funded in this amount, and here's the reason why. And that kind of system, that kind of transparency needs to happen for there to be buy-in to the process. Any questions? I see some furrowed brows on what we're doing here at our institute. Any questions on what's happening at Maricosta? Your name and maybe your department.
What are the criteria you use to come up with these scores? Or is that why the evaluations vary so much?
Yeah, you were at our meeting the other week, right? We never, I got news for you, we never asked those questions before, but those are the same things that were happening. The people that scored the 49 said, what the hell were you looking at? To come up with 75. I gave this 40. You gave that 10 points for being attached to the mission. The guy writes he's attached to the mission and you give him 10 points. They got to prove it to me. You see what I'm saying? We never had that kind of analysis of coming together and saying, we're going to score these in that way. So we're now at a point of looking at, well, what are the clearer criteria? When people write their program review, they need to be able to know what those criteria are so that they can know that when the evaluation comes into the rubric, they're better at it. But those questions that we're having, as I said, I guess I'm trying to get in your mind that you don't have to be perfect. When the site team came out to us and took us off sanction, we're not perfect. But we've established to them that we have processes in place, we can catch where we go wrong, we can make improvements, with decisions on the data, we recognize that it's limited, but we're constantly getting better. It's continuous quality improvement, not continuous quality perfection. But we have the processes in place to be able to do this. And I think when the team came out here, they couldn't follow this. And they could look at your program reviews and said, oh my God, look at this. Outcome met, no change. Outcome met, no change. These are a group of people that I know are doing outcomes assessment. They don't buy into the system. So what Eva's going to be building out, and what I'm going to try to help you guys do between now and October, is confidence in this system. Confidence in this system. And we're making really tough decisions at our institution. The other thing, I'm remarkably blunt. My wife will tell you, she kicks me under the table all the time. But after World War II, America got fat. At Maricosta, property values are going higher and higher in San Diego, northern San Diego County. More money was coming into a Bay City district. And what happened? A mistake doesn't matter. We had more money coming in. Build another tract. We want more property taxes coming in. That margin of error doesn't exist anymore. New money in this economy is going to get harder and harder to get. So that repurposing of existing funds is becoming tough. And we're making decisions that didn't have to make in 1968, which is we have a basketball arena that needs $750,000 of repairs. Starts asking questions of what is the role of athletics, right? Those are tough calls because back in the old day, $500,000 fix it up. The reality is, yeah, but our biology classes have waiting lists and fill up, and we're getting kids that can't meet their contracts to the UCSD. You see what I'm saying? Those are tough calls. I'm not going to say they're easy, but they're tough calls that we're now making and deciding about repurposing of funds. We have a nuclear reactor, not far, San Onofre, and then we have a certificate in how to be able to work with the nuclear reactors and the support role. The reactor's been closed for 2 years, yet we still have the certificate, right? The question starts to become really difficult. And to show you how the paradigm shift is coming, and as I said to you, but we find these difficult decisions exciting. Now you're starting to see the cycle of nurses being needed more, right? You went to a period of time where nurses were not needed as much over there. Now you have that the nursing demand increasing. We can't hire any more nursing instructors. We don't have the money. So we have a community need that helped inform our mission, which was perhaps to increase the health and well-being by providing good workers in the health-related fields. We can't meet that outcome because we have an old way of doing things. So this is really going to change. It's really going to change the way contracts are negotiated. It's really going to change the way that bureaucracies are run. It's really going to need to change on all parts. Administrators are going to have to be view themselves more as empowerers, people that help things get done, not hierarchical. Faculty are going to have to realize that our old contracts, automatic step increases, may not be the same way in the economy that's happening. We're losing our competitive edge. The key is us to become a vibrant, nimble organization that's able to meet the needs of our community. Any other questions about what we're doing? Because we're about to dive into outcomes assessment and some activities, but you're not going to see any value in the outcome stuff that we're going to be doing unless you can see that down the road, this is going to play a role. Other than it becomes compliance. Your first name in your department?
Dave Robinson, language arts. At your Acosta, what experience do you have with broadening buy-in among faculty members?
Faculty buy-in. Yeah, and I can sense it. I got some questions here when I first was talking to people. Well, how many outcomes assessment do we have to do? You know what I mean? Or how much is enough on this kind of thing? The questions are already going in a direction that it's compliant. And I think the essence of the buy-in, again, I'm going to lay it to you straight that we did at Mariposa. It became abundantly clear that working conditions were separate and distinct from our responsibility to students. How we were going to pay for SLOs is an entirely different question. It's a valid question. It's a question the college needs to tackle, but it's a question that's not involved in the academic and professional matters that faculty lead on. And that really important role and distinction came in were issues at our own institution. And I don't help COS if I'm not blunt with you with what we went through. And the reality is, if pushback is coming in saying we don't do them unless we get paid, that's really going to lead to the circumstances happening with the commission. You're telling us you're not going to look at student learning and be able to make it part of your planning processes. Well, what do you expect the commission to do? So buy-in really is going to happen, though, when they see that there's purpose behind it. Buy-in is going to happen when they see that decisions are being made, resources are being allocated, the resources are being repurposed, professional development grants are being awarded to faculty to improve their mastery as teaching based on what their outcomes assessment. Then you're going to see confidence. But when you don't see the role of this, the general belief is this has got to be some way to evaluate us. So what's going to happen is you guys are going to have to participate in this process of mapping and being part of the transparency. But folks, faculty that don't want to do the work, I don't know what to say. That's really what we left it at Mariposa. And we had the folks, and we said, we're going to come back and make student learning our priority. And I can tell you that over the last 3 to 5 years, the growth in buy-in has been amazing. Because people see that the outcomes are not being used to punish, the outcomes are being used to identify gaps, the administration is prioritizing them based on those gaps, they're allocating money, and we're changing. That's what's going to bring in the buy-in. What other questions do you have before we get rolling? Any thoughts, concerns? All right, let's get rolling. By the way, the last piece, those 4 bulleted items, 5 bulleted items of where I want you to be in October, the last thing we do that we never did before, we evaluate what's happening. For example, the question here about the rubric. Somebody asked, what do you do for criteria? We are now stepping outside of ourselves and evaluating our structure. And one of the things we determination and get a task force going next year is better training on the rubric, better explanation of the rubric, better consistency among scores, so that we know that the evaluations of the rubric are reliable. We can have confidence in them. We're evaluating our processes. The second thing that we're doing is we're evaluating our allocations. Okay, and we're actually getting better at it. This year we have the issue of biology needing microscopes compared against Child Development Center that needs a new swing set. What are the problems when those kinds of priorities come up? All right, you're on the faculty, you're on the committee, you're the faculty member. What's the problem when you're evaluating and prioritizing a swing set for your Child Development Center versus microscopes for the biology? It's problems. Because that's a decision we have, we're prioritizing. What are the issues? Nobody?
Well, how does it serve the mission?
Go ahead. Go. Yeah. And I would say, faculty, you lead on this. Don't give up. Don't give up your important, critical voice at the table to be able to influence these decisions. Right? De Tocqueville said, if we get the democracy, we get the government that we deserve. Get involved in the decision making, get involved in the process to be able to help make better decisions for the college. Your first name? Celeste, what are you going to say? Really loud, because I can't hear you. Yeah. Anything else? I mean, these are the conversations we were coming to when we were asking what comes into a priority. At Maricosta, where we were, which is why the hell are we asking this question? I mean, we've got limited funds, and we're making a decision between whether children should be safe in our child development center, and whether an important, critical issue like microscopes are present in a laboratory. So we're starting to get better at it. We're saying, wait a minute, shouldn't we be having an idea, or our consideration is, what's the lifespan of a microscope? What's the lifespan of a swing set? And shouldn't we be building that into our budget so we're not dealing with these priorities? They're already built in. So every year, okay, so the lifespan of a microscope is 7 years, it's $35,000 to buy them. Then every 7 years, $5,000 a year is going to budget to pay for that. So then when those microscopes come up again, they're automatically repaired. Same way with the swing set. So we're actually getting better in the sense of asking ourselves the questions of, why are we deciding this versus that on some of these issues? The other thing we're looking at is some of them are like, I need $5,000 for this, $1,000 for that. Why are we deciding these really small kinds of things and trying to get priorities? So as we mature as a college, as we're looking at data and information to make these decisions, we're getting better at it. Because now we're then talking to the BS and say, isn't there something called total cost of ownership? So that when this gets done on computer cycle. Another issue that happened at my institution is you've got faculty members asking for more computers in their program review. Yet we have a technology plan that calls for no more PCs in the rooms. It's all going to be virtual, right? It's all going to be an environment where you tap into a cloud, software is kept on the cloud. You see, our technology plan wasn't even talking to the program reviews. Here you got somebody petitioning for computers where their technology plan saying we're not going to be having those things a few years from now. That should really be part of the decision making, and faculty on those committees is absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. Okay. So let's review those and let's get rolling. I think what I want to get you guys in mind is what's going to answer the question about how much assessment is enough is based on the role you play in the strategic plan, the improvement you have as a department, your professional development as a person. Then the second part becomes the loop itself that you're setting up. How are we setting up the assessment plan? How are we getting things rolling? Next part is how can we show that the decisions are being aligned, and how can we show that the evaluation. So I believe in your packet you have something from the Community College of Baltimore County. Yeah, take a look at the Chemistry 108. And you're all going to be chemists for about 20 minutes. Now you're going to get rolling for the rest of the time. You should have a handout there that's from the Community College of Baltimore County. They are an award winner of a group and organization called CHIA, Council for Higher Education Accreditation. And at your tables, this is their summary report that they do as they put information into program review. So what I'd like you to do is spend about 15 minutes going over this summary report. Something like this is what I'm contemplating you guys produce annually that falls into your program review. sweet, easy, productive, and give information. So spend about 20 minutes talking to each other. You imagine that that report is generated, you're at your faculty meeting. The question I have for you is, take a look at their assessment methods and their time for doing assessment. Is it making sense? The second part is, what do you think about their conclusions? And what would your recommendations be? If you were putting this in the program review, what would you be asking for, or thinking about, or part of the reflection? So take a few minutes to read the report. It's short and simple and sweet. It's basically one page. And as a faculty at that table, please have discussions about the faculty research and inquiry that they went through, and then a little bit about what you would be doing with the conclusions to make changes to the 5 reasons why you do SLOs. Improving as teachers, seeing whether the curriculum works, determining resource allocation, helping the college learn, and accreditation. So check back with you guys in about 20 minutes.